And welcome to our community. Susie Thomas visiting with Rebecca Moreland. And Greg, what is your last name?
Colbeck.
Greg Colbeck. I guess I never knew that until just now. Both with Rehab Ministries. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Morning.
And thanks for being here. I was stunned to find out that Rehab Ministries is 14 years old and providing, not prevention, rescuing women who are caught in the lifestyle of human trafficking.
Correct. You got it.
This is, I think, a topic that still stuns people to find out that human trafficking exists in Northeast Ohio. We might hear of it in Asian countries or far off, but how in the world can it be in our backyard? So first of all, thank you both for what you do, and thank you both for being here today. So tell me, first of all, Becky, tell me what your role is with Rehab Ministries.
Well, thanks for having us. I appreciate being here. Rehab Ministries began, well, we're just now starting our 14th year, and I am the founder of Rehab Ministries, and it began just in a very simple way, in a very small way, in Akron, where we would go out on Friday nights, myself and 2 or 3 other people would form a team, and we'd walk up and down Arlington Street in our area and talk to the women that are out there and finding if they were okay, if they needed anything, if there was a way that we could help them. And that was our startup of how Rehab began 14 years ago.
First of all, that's very brave of you to be walking around.
Well, sometimes I think it's either brave or stupid. I'm not sure how you want to categorize that. But
what on earth gave you the idea that you needed to do that this was even something that there would be a problem to be addressed?
Right. Well, that's a good question. I had a very dear friend, or still do, that had challenged me about how I might give back to the community. And I really wasn't sure what that would look like. And so I really spent some time in prayer and trying to see where God would have me fit into some type of ministry. And I had heard on the radio a program in Chicago called the Bridge of Hope. And they were walking the streets of Chicago, talking to the women out there all hours of the night and doing exactly what we started doing here in Akron. So I went to Chicago and I shadowed them for about a week, and I learned as much as I could. And I came back and I told my dear friend, I go, this is what I want to do, and I want to do it in Summit County. And it was a great idea and it was a great plan, but fear just overtook me. And it wasn't something where I just said, okay, let's go do this. No, I had a whole bucket of excuses as to why I should not do it.
Well, that can be prudent because, how can I give back to the community? Sometimes that is, I think I'll join the garden club. You're talking about walking dangerous streets, talking to people who are involved in a very dangerous lifestyle. And to shadow someone in Chicago, not the safest city in the United States, even 14 years ago. Certainly, your guardian angels working double overtime, I think.
I don't know if I would go that far.
Then what dispelled the fear? Because obviously you didn't give up.
Well, let me tell you, because that is a good point as to how we really dove in and did what we were supposed to be doing. I had presented this whole great plan of how this would look and what it looked like in Chicago and what it might look like here in Northeast Ohio, and then I did nothing. And then my friend had called me one Sunday morning and she said, you need to come to church now, you need to pray because your ministry just walked in our door. And I did exactly what she said. And when I got there, I found this sweet young lady just curled up in a corner and just tired and been on the streets all night and needed help. And so I sat with her and talked with her and built a relationship with her. And that was what really said, okay, I can do this.
She put a face on it for you.
She did. Mm-hmm. She truly did. And my heart was already connected. Wow. So that was the precipice that led me into the streets. And I needed that. I needed that little push because you're right. A garden club would have been a lot safer. Unfortunately, I do not have a green thumb, so I went where I was called, and that was the streets.
Well, and we're not going to be happy till we land where we're called,
That's right?
That's not
right.
really going to work until then. Greg, very interesting that you're involved as well. I know many ministries to women don't allow young men to be involved because these women have had such a horrible experience with men. Tell us your role with Rehab Ministries.
Sure. Technically, my title is Director of Operations, so I've got my hands in everything from the mentoring program through doing office administrative tasks, driving, picking up donations, pretty much everything that we do on a day-to-day basis. I try to oversee and make sure that it goes smoothly. Becky was doing that plus being the visionary and kind of taking the ministry in new directions, and she couldn't do both well, so she wanted to bring in another person to oversee day-to-day tasks while she continued to be the forerunner of the ministry, and that was me.
And Becky, you were open to having a young man do that role. What was it about Greg that you knew he was right for the part?
Well, I know Greg's heart. I've known Greg for a few years now, and I know his heart, and I know that he would have a way to connect. And not all men would have a clear understanding of the population that we deal with. And Greg is somebody that said from day one, I get it. I just get it, and I know that this is where God wants me. And there was no hesitation on his part at all when we sat down initially and talked about you joining the team.
Your background is what? Do either of you have social work or what kind of training?
Greg has more than I do. Go ahead, Greg.
I have just a bachelor's degree in psychology.
Boy, but that probably comes in very handy, doesn't it?
Every day.
Yes, and Becky, other than an answer to a prayer, which is I think substantial. What else was your
I think mine was just life in itself. Being a single mom of 4 kids, and and just learning from life's experiences and knowing that I myself had been seeped in sin. I was never one of the women that were out there like we meet now, but I still know that I needed a savior and I needed someone to come alongside me. And I found both of those things, and now it's what I want to give back to them.
So cool. Well, what exactly is Rehab Ministries? What services are provided? Are you a home, a safe place for people to escape to, or what do you provide?
We have a lot of things that we provide. I'll touch on a few, and I'll let Greg hit a couple of them as well. When we first started, obviously, like I said, we started on the streets. So we do street outreach on a weekly basis, which we still do that. I don't personally, but it is done. And then we also go into some correctional facilities to meet the women there. We go into them 1 day a week, and we offer a Bible study and a lot of time of connecting with the women, building relationships with them. And we also have a small little house in East Akron. It's a drop-in center, and we provide programming and services. Nobody lives there. It's a day-to-day service that they can come in and they can get some food. We serve hot meals. We have a clothing closet. We have a hygiene closet. We have a time of devotion, Bible study. But mostly it's about building those relationships in family style. A lot of these women and girls that we meet don't understand what it is to sit around a dining room table, family style, and have a meal. So that's been a big deal for us. And what I really love about the drop-in center is that women come in there, and there's 2 things that they always say to us. They feel safe. They don't feel like they have to look over their shoulder for whatever short time that they're there. They can breathe, they can relax. And they also know that if they were to go back out, meaning if they were to go start using drugs again or walking the streets or whatever, they always know that they're welcome back. They're never judged. So those are the 2 key points within the Rehab drop-in center that we have. And we have many other ways that we work with the women. Greg, touch on some of those.
Yeah, sure. That would bring us up through the first 8 years or so of Rehab, right?
Correct.
And then recently we've identified that helping someone and then them having to go back and live in the situation they came out of is almost counterproductive. So the need for safe housing is enormous. We have one of the only safe houses for victims of human trafficking in Ohio now. We built it about a year ago. It can house up to 10 women, and that is a residential facility. People can stay there. It's a holistic program where we cover everything from trauma-based counseling all the way through education and life skills training, fun activities, things like that.
Are any of these women mothers?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what can be done for their children then?
Yeah, part of the vision for Rehab is to have 3 safe houses, one for adults, which is open and running now, one for minor victims, which is in the works, and then a house for mothers who have custody of their children. So that's a visionary piece for us, but that doesn't change the need immediately. Exactly. So we've had residents at the safe house that were pregnant and delivered, and we found a safe home for their child.
Wow. Tell me about these women. Now, are these women who have been trafficked, or do you have a combination? Are some runaways? Are some people who have been kidnapped? Are some out there voluntarily?
Those are great questions.
Yeah.
And one way that we can address that question is the answer is yes.
All of the above.
It's all of the above. But I think that people might have in their minds this visual of things like in the movie Taken, where they're like this guerrilla warfare where they're being yanked out of their homes, and that happens, but it's very rare. What we tend to see more of is what we might call finesse trafficking, where the girls are groomed and they are charmed, and they have maybe peers that are male that are being paid to groom these girls and to bring them into the fold. And it's a lot of manipulation. It's a lot of force and a lot of coercion.
Phew. Is it difficult for a gal to leave this lifestyle?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that it's more difficult in the finesse trafficking than if it was a situation where they were being held by, say, physical chains. We throw around the term trauma bonding a lot, and I think that we assume people know it, but...
No, let's talk. What is trauma bonding?
Trauma bonding is the phenomenon that happens when a very traumatic experience happens to someone. The next person they see, their body physiologically will bond to that person. So if a woman is put out or forced to go on a date, quote unquote, 15 times in a night with 15 different guys, who's there in between those times to clean her up and get her ready? Her pimp or her trafficker.
And she
that guy
bonds with this person.
Bonding to that guy over and over and over again.
Even though this is a person who's putting her in a horrible situation.
Mm-hmm.
A person you're able to bond that. Okay, this is where your psychology degree comes in. What on earth kicks in that makes that happen?
Well, I don't know all about the neuroscience behind it, but I know that it's happening, and I know that the pimps know full well that that's a tool that they use to keep women around.
So it's not just a financial, I need to do this for the money. They stay in it because they feel that that's where they have to be.
It's a part of brainwashing for these girls. A lot of the times we'll see the girls, and we had a conversation the other day about this, they always, or most often, will refer to their pimp as their boyfriend. And the boyfriends will convince these girls that they love them, and then the next night they might be beating them. And then they will take them out to a fine dining or buy them a gift, all the while brainwashing them to believe that I am your boyfriend, I am your lover boy, I am everything that you need. Your family doesn't love you, or you wouldn't be in this situation. A lot of the girls that we meet too also have been coming out of foster care or runaways. If you see a young lady that's marginalized, maybe she's not the popular one in class, the lover boys, as they call them, or the traffickers, will see that, and they know this, and they can easily capture this girl. And if they just give her a little bit of attention that she's seeking, they're going to just run to that. And these boys know that.
It's almost, what I hear you describing almost is like an abused spouse. That
Yes.
This person is putting them in such an abusive situation, and yet they just don't feel that they can leave it. Is it a similar kind of a relationship?
Very much so, very much so. And people always say, well, why don't you just walk away? And it's just not that simple. There's so much psychological bondage that has taken place, and it could be happening for years. Or they could even have, if it's a young girl, they could maybe have taken pictures of her when they were in a very promiscuous arrangement, and then they can threaten to show those pictures to their family. I mean, there's all kinds of ways that they use to bring these girls into the trauma bonding piece. Mm-hmm. Do you want to add anything to that, Greg? No,
you did beautifully. Well, we have to take a break anyway. Finding out more and more about Rehab Ministries, fascinating, and thank you for your work. And stay with us. You're listening to Our Community.